But now he's going to be staying with the Brooklyn Nets and the NBA never sleeping. What does this really mean? Not for the Nets specifically, Brandon, but for Kevin Durant as an individual player, as an individual superstar.
Is that he's still going to be a member of the Brooklyn Nets, and the Nets still do have a chance to compete in the very competitive Eastern Conference. But I'll be very honest with you. I believe that ultimately nobody really won because everybody's fighting. Now, listen, Freddie, me and you, or you and I rather, touch and agree on hip-hop. I believe there's a song in Jay-Z's 444 when he says nobody wins when the family feuds.
Right.
And when you look at that situation there, there were a lot of people, particularly on the player side, that were unhappy with Kevin, or rather with Steve Nash and Sean Marks. I can tell you there are about 3 players that I know within the last couple of years of just that regime that weren't pleased with how things went. And I'll lay this all out. Number one, I know that Steve Nash's inexperience in some ways played a part in it throughout the course of the last couple of seasons. And Sean Marks and Steve Nash are a package deal. And a lot of things that get laid out in translation in the ever-going Twitter sphere, internet, and more, conventional wisdom suggests that it's not true that Steve Nash was Kevin Durant's pick. And I've said this on other shows. I'll say it to you. Ty Lue was Kevin Durant's first choice back in 2019. And the two of them did have a phone conversation. And in that conversation, Lue said that he'd be interested to come to Brooklyn, but he needs to talk to Kyrie Irving and see what he says. And I know those two have a relationship dating back to Cleveland, and those two are cool. But there's a difference between playing with somebody or working every day and just saying hi and passing. I'm told that those two, Ty Lue and Kyrie, never had that conversation, and that, in fact, Kyrie's desire was for Phil Handy, Los Angeles Lakers assistant coach, to become head coach, and the Nets did want Phil Handy in a capacity, and ultimately Handy was not granted permission by the Los Angeles Lakers to interview for an assistant coaching position. So they're stuck with each other, and this all goes back to just the player empowerment movement and where players want certain things, and Kevin Durant has to sit for 4 years and play for the Nets. Kyrie Irving has a player option that he opted into, and Ben Simmons is still there. I don't think that's a cruel and unusual punishment to have a big three, who I think in a lot of cases Ben Simmons fits the Nets a lot better than James Harden does. He takes less shots. He can play defense. And all we need him to do is be Forrest Gump, run Forrest, run up the court, and we can make something happen. You compete with Boston, you compete with the Bucks, you compete with the Sixers, and there's other teams that are competitive. But I think this was a whole lot of nothing from folks that I spoke with today, and they'll be back ready for training camp the last week of September.
You mentioned they're stuck with each other. How does this whole thing stay together throughout an entire season? When through an entire 82-game grind, we all know it's going to hit a ditch at some point. So when it does, how does this whole thing stick together and stay together?
Winning. Winning cures all. A lot of money and a bag of money cures some things too. At least it pays the bills on time. But if it doesn't, I think that so this is just from all of the things that I pieced together throughout the course of the off season. I feel like when you look at Kevin Durant, and it's an express of how he feels about Sean Marks and Steve Nash, right? It kind of takes me back to the Nets in 2004, I think it was, when they came off, when Byron Scott got fired after going to the finals in 2003, if my memory serves correct. You knew that Jason Kidd fell away, and then he was kind of upset about just things, the way that things were going with Byron Scott. I feel like in 2022. You draw attention to Sean Marks. You draw attention to Steve Nash. Now people are watching. I think that it's easy to put blame on Kyrie Irving because of the jab. It's easy to put blame on Kevin Durant because it's been reported that he didn't, want Nash or Marks in the fold. But now, by him drawing attention to it, now he's put Josiah on notice that, hey, it's not just us. It's them too. And say, hypothetically, the Nets don't go out and perform and do well. Could the coach and the GM be on ice? It's possible. But if they win, who cares?
Because winning cures all ills. Oh, and he's exactly right. He is Brandon Robinson, NBA insider of Bally Sports, joining us here on Freddie Fitzsimmons on ESPN Radio with Ian Fitzsimmons. I'm Freddie Coleman. I also firmly believe this, and I've said it all night long. I don't really believe that Kevin Durant wanted to leave in the first place, Brandon. What do you think about that?
It's been conversations that I've had. I've spoken to people who feel as though, and have spoken to Kevin. And Kevin, as was advised, go about it this way, finesse it more than just, I kind of feel like this was throwing the rock and hiding the hand. In this case, he's Mike Tyson. He jumps in the ring with Peter McNeely and knocks him out in 30 seconds. Now what? Ain't no way in the world if I'm Joe Tsai, I'm making 2 enemies instead of 1. And so I think Kevin said what he said. Sean Marks and Steve Nash aren't going anywhere. Y'all blankety blank better figure it out or else. But the or else was nobody else was trading the whole house or the whole farm to get the house. Throughout the last month, I've just taken a cursory look at all of the potential teams. So you go back to, I remember I was in Mexico. I was in Playa del Carmen, and I landed in Mexico, and my phone was ringing. This was like the 30th. Yo, Kevin Durant getting traded. So when you're in the airport and your phone is trying to calibrate in another country, I was a fan just like many people who are your listeners. So after I kind of settled in and was getting phone calls and was making phone calls, I started really reaching out to people tied to certain teams. Toronto didn't want to give up Scotty Barnes. The Pelicans wanted any iteration that included Kevin Durant, but the Nets wanted Brandon Ingram, Larry Nance, and a multitude of picks. To be honest with you, the Pelicans was the perfect match. What messed up with the Suns was the fact the whole Ayton situation via the Pacers and that offer sheet. So, you look at the situation with Boston. I never thought that Boston totally considered it because you have good chemistry with Jaylen Brown, and they didn't want to give up Marcus Smart and a backcourt with Brogdon. And I just think that in this situation, I forgot what you said, but it just sounded good on radio. But the point of the matter is, at the end of the day, they stuck with each other. They need to figure this out, stop playing, and play basketball. Y'all too good of a team to just sit there and play. This is for real. This is not for play. Get it together.
I'll tell you this, man. I was tired of it the moment it popped. I was on vacation also when this thing happened. And then 9 seconds after it did, I looked at my wife and my kids, and I went, I'm already tired of this story because it's going to go into football season. So bottom line is, you know what? I'm thrilled it's over. At least this part, because there's gonna be another chapter. Yeah, at least this part, because there's going to be another chapter because it's KD, and we all know how Betty Crocker he can get. But bottom line is, I'm thrilled it's over. Last question for me. We appreciate your time here on ESPN Radio. I don't care about his image, I'm sure, but he does. Did his image take a hit? No,
because I know that when you talk to your wife, you gave her the edited version of how you really felt with a lot of 4-letter words and sugar, honey, ice, tea. I'll take that and raise you this. In the words of my late grandmother, his name is Donald Duck, and what rhymes with duck? He doesn't give a. At the end of the day, he's Kevin Durant, and if they win a championship, nobody cares. Nobody cares. What Stephen A. said, we don't care. Nobody cares. I don't think he cares. And I think if you're the fan, the fact that the NBA, with ESPN and others, the schedule changes and everything in between that, didn't include Brooklyn on the national schedule, I like the fact that the Nets are more low profile. I like the fact that the Warriors are getting all the attention. I like the fact that the Celtics are getting – heck, I like the fact that the Knicks are getting certain attention. You know why? Because it makes them more low profile. Listen, sometimes – don't drive the Lamborghini door or drive a Lamborghini. You know what I'm saying? Don't drive the Lamborghini to Wawa or to Sheetz or to the supermarket. Daggone it, drive the Corolla. The Nets are a Corolla right now. I like it.
He is one of our favorites. Does a great job as an NBA insider for Bally Sports. Hit him on Twitter at Scoop B. He is Brandon Scoop B. Robinson on his vacay in Los Angeles, but giving us time about the Nets no longer having Kevin Durant wanting to leave that place and go on a permanent vacation. He joined Ian Fitzsimmons and Freddie Coleman on Freddie and Fitzsimmons. Keep up the great work, Scoop B. We'll holler at you soon, my friend.
Gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to be myself, and we'll talk soon.